It's time for the Lovable Me Show. Based on the award-winning book series, I Am a Lovable Me. Get ready to have some fun learning with Lovable, our resident enlightening bug. Are you ready? Close your eyes and let's count to 3. 1, 2, 3. Now open them. Here we go.
Hello and welcome to the Lovable Me Show. I'm Sharon Penchina, your host and author of the award-winning I Am a Lovable Me books for children. We have a very exciting show today with not one, but 2 special guests, the founder and co-founder of the company, kindness.org. But before we talk about kindness today, I'd like to spend a moment or two reflecting on diversity. Diversity is what makes us as individuals very unique, and that's a really good thing. Can you imagine a world where we all looked the same, sounded the same, and acted the same? The joy of creativity would definitely be stifled. A few things you can do to teach your kiddos about diversity with the intent to raise them as kind and empathetic people are as follows. Self-reflection. Parents must first understand their own biases before they can truly help their children confront their own. That entails identifying where we're falling short and where we can do better, as well as noticing when we're embracing differences and where we're rising to the occasion. It's as simple as noticing when and if you're labeling another person or when you've reached out to help someone and get that good feeling inside. Ask your children simple questions. Start with straightforward issues. As you go along and you create more room for honest dialogue, you can then tackle some of the tougher issues. Listen to your children. Listening when they talk about differences among their peers. Ask questions and try to formulate a clear picture of how they view the world. In addition, listen carefully to the questions they ask you about diversity and tolerance. And before you answer, make sure you have a good idea as to what they're talking about and what they really want to know. Working together. Now, if we teach children to recognize injustice, we must also teach them that people can create positive change by working together. Children who feel good about themselves are less likely to view others with distrust. And model the behavior you want them to adopt. A primary factor when it comes to your child learning to deal with differences is a result of how their parents, caregivers, and other important adults in their life deal with diversity. And lastly, to quote Rumi, "You are not a drop in the ocean, you are the entire ocean in a drop." That said, my guests today are really making a difference when it comes to making the world a better place through acts of kindness. They founded a nonprofit with a bold hypothesis. Kindness is the catalyst in solving the world's biggest challenges. They believe a kinder world is possible, and they're here to make that happen. And with that said, Jacqueline, Lindsey, and Melissa Burmester, welcome to the Lovable Me Show.
Thank you.
It's great to have you here. I hope I said, I got your last name right, Melissa. Did I?
You did, and very few people do, so well done.
I forgot to ask you along the way, and it's like, I hope I do that correctly. Anyway, before we dive in, I was wondering if you could tell our audience a little bit about yourselves.
Yeah, go ahead. Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Jacqueline. I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you, Sharon, for hosting us. So I'm a Florida girl and now living happily in Brooklyn, New York. I'm a mom to Abel Lyon. He's going to be 18 months next week. And I am a lover of travel and adventure and spontaneity. I say all of that, but I actually budget time to be spontaneous. So that also speaks to my very type A personality. And I've always had a passion for the nonprofit space and trying to better the world through social impact. And I've particularly cared about more humanitarian and global initiatives, and am honored to now be at the table with Melissa, leading and building out kindness.org, which we've been working on for several years now. So thank you again for having me.
Oh, we're happy to have you here.
And hi, I'm Melissa, co-founder and chief product officer at kindness.org, originally from California. Also a mom. I have a daughter, Amelia, and she's 2.5. And it's funny, I think Jacqueline is probably the kindest person I know, naturally. And I am still a work in progress. So I get things wrong all the time. And I'm so passionate about this and really figuring out the tools of how you practice kindness, how you teach it to your kids. Mainly because, I got to solve it for me too. and just try and always be really real with the stuff that's hard, and really lucky to be in this with somebody who models it so naturally.
Thank you, Melissa. You know, it appears that you two are a great complement to each other. So that's really nice, and that you're having fun doing this very important work. Can you tell us what inspired you to start kindness.org?
Sure. Yeah, I'll share my journey, and I think the beauty and what you're hitting on is that we are a great duo and complement one another in so many ways. But one of the things that is the driving force is our unified passion and commitment that this matters, and this is our life's work. So we each independently actually got to the idea of kindness. And for me personally, I was actually feeling very fulfilled in doing work that was quite meaningful, but still felt some kind of disconnect that it wasn't translating to what I was most passionate about, which was humans caring better for one another. And a belief that if we just put kindness at the forefront of how we made decisions and operated our lives and came into work and walked down our neighborhood streets, that would be the ripple effect that could create incredible and powerful change. But it was also very out here and ethereal. How does that work? And how do you build something around this idea of kindness? And it felt fluffy. It felt nebulous. It felt really difficult to put parameters around. But that was what excited me. And so a few years ago, decided to leave that job I loved to spend time pouring into a mission around kindness, and had the incredible fortune to get to discover Melissa and her journey, and that it was very similar to what I was thinking about. And so we dove into it, and now it has manifested into this thriving, incredible nonprofit, kindness.org.
This started only, you say, 3 years ago. Is that?
Yeah, so we're a public charity, and have been so for about 3 years, but it's been in idea for closer to 4.
Mm-hmm. Well, it just seems, and I know we hear this a lot, but it's very timely based on the climate, that we're all living in right now. And I think sometimes through the most challenging times and, what we are constantly being bombarded with in the media, such divisiveness in the country, that it can sort of bring forth the best in us also. And it seems that your organization, again, very timely in these times that we're living. Is that your experience too, that it's, perhaps something that, innately we want to reach out and touch ourselves, and involve ourselves in kindness, become more aware of it, and find ways that we can, make changes in the way we're treating each other as of late. Is that your experience?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think we hear people, a lot of interest in it, and then specifically, what do you actually do? What is an act of kindness, and what's appropriate in certain circumstances, especially in places where there is nobody really teaching it necessarily. So you see that online, cyber, and all of these different new social dynamics, and people are like, well, what do I do? Like, I want to show up, or I want to learn this, but I really just, what do I do?
Yeah.
And that practical application of kindness is definitely a question that we get all the time.
Yeah, I mean, and yet, on the other hand, it seems like such a simple thing, because when we, we can feel it within our own selves when we're coming from that space. We feel good. We feel good about ourselves, and it's not through someone doing something for us. It's simply us doing for another. So I know you have an aspect to the company called Kind Lab, and I wonder if you could tell us about that, because I'm not sure what that is myself. Is that something you can share some information about?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, go for it. Sure. So Kind Lab is our research hub. When we were starting this, one of the things that we saw as a gap, if you will, in the space was, how do you lead out with science and the understanding of how kindness could be a catalyst to solving problems. And there was so much research and work being done to investigate kindness, empathy, compassion, and the roles those things played in the lives of humans, and the effect they had, the powerful effect that it had. But how do you translate that for those things that you're saying, the tips, the tools, the recommendations? And so we decided to launch an investigative side of our work, and we call it Kind Lab, which is where we're basically studying the costs and benefits of kindness and understanding how it affects well-being and happiness and the role it can play in solving problems.
Jacqueline, can you give us an example of that? Because I hear what you're saying and it makes sense, but what have you seen? Give us an example of one of the effects of kindness.
Certainly. So when we first started, we wanted to know the effect, if at all, that doing a kind act had on our happiness and our well-being as an individual. So we set out to study that through what's called a systematic literature review, and we were able to collaborate with the University of Oxford on this. So we worked with a team of researchers and scientists who basically assessed all the existing literature and academic papers that had been published on this one single topic. Is there a link between doing kind acts and our happiness and well-being? And they analyzed hundreds of papers. And what ultimately we discovered is, indeed, there is what's called a significant effect. And in the scientific realm, that's a heavy word to be able to say that there's a significant effect. But the effect is basically, when you're doing kind acts, you do feel a boost in your happiness and well-being. And on a scale, it was almost 1 point of a boost. So we can certainly share that paper and those results if you want to include a resource in the comment on this video, so anyone can look into it. That's one example.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Some of us, need that scientific substantiation, and then there are those of us that, I just feel great when I've done something to alleviate someone else's discomfort or to help them in some way where, you just take a look at their eyes are lighting up, and you just feel so good inside. So we kind of, again, innately know that. But it's nice to hear about some of the science behind that. What would you say that as a recommendation for parents to raise kinder kids? What are some of the things that you recommend, or that kindness.org is involved in, that will help support that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it depends on the age of the kids, but I think in general, from my perspective, it starts with, like you were saying earlier, you have to care well for yourself first. We say you've got to put that oxygen mask on and make sure you're in a place to be able to model the behavior, because we know that kindness can be taught and it can be practiced, but kids are going to see however it is that you're actually doing that. And so trying to have conversations, we try and provide tools of how to talk to kids at different ages, and how, like, what words do you even use to talk about it, and then what are practical tips for doing small acts, teaching them to recognize kindness. We have an act suggestion called, like, play I Spy Kindness with your kids, and go out and really look for it, and try and find these examples where you're not just telling them about this thing, but you're mapping it to real world behaviors and seeing it and then doing it in some small way. So whether that's a kind act for a neighbor or a classmate or your teacher, how can you really just proactively incorporate micro acts of kindness into your daily routines with your kids?
And Melissa, is that something that the viewers can find on your site, where they can just sort of get, some guidelines, or, I don't know if it's a list of activities, or, anything that will support parents in doing actually more mindful parenting with their children?
Yeah, definitely on our site, which we're always updating, and we'll continue to do so as we really are building out. We're working towards a database of 1,000 recommended acts of kindness. And that's what we say, rather than random, recommended. And so it's really with that intention. I mean, you can even intentionally do a random act of kindness, right? But it's going out with that intention to benefit somebody.
Jacqueline, is there one piece of advice that you would want to pass on to, parents, teachers, caregivers?
Oh, it's a great question, Sharon. If I had to say one piece, Melissa's hit on it. And I think it's an important thing to remember, that kindness is hard sometimes. It can require strength, bravery. It's not always the easy choice. And so I think my advice is giving yourself that grace to know it's not about trying to operate in it all the time in an unrealistic way, but rather, how can you think about, in those moments where you're struggling, what does the choice of kindness look like? And being able to hone in on the practice of it. And with kids, we do use language like growing the muscle of kindness, helping children know that, like all the things we teach them about eating your spinach and, playing and running versus being sedentary on the couch with your video games, that it's just figuring out how you're growing those muscles, and kindness is just like that. And that would be the thing I would say.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. It just reminded me that, children from the age of 0 to 7 are in a super learning state. So just like brushing your teeth or combing your hair or anything else, they can develop kindness as a habit in actuality. And that comes through repetition of through what they hear, and what they say and their actions. So starting very young is a great way to go. Again, to just have it become, an ingrained habit or behavior that they just do automatically throughout their lives. So I like that whole idea of, it's if you start, at a very early age, it really makes things go a whole lot easier and better. So one of the things that we talked about a little bit before we got on the show was that one of the most powerful vehicles in getting the word out about your amazing mission came through more than one video, but certainly one beautiful video I saw that was created and launched through social media channels and received tens of millions of views. So I encourage, anyone that's watching, that may be a link that you want to, post also, so they can take a look at that, because it's very touching and motivating, and I think it's something that would be a nice thing to share with your friends and relatives, etc. What is kindness.org focusing on now? What's the mission? What should we expect or look to see coming from your organization?
We'll both answer parts of it. Yeah. Well, we're continuing to do research out of Kind Lab. So that looks like, pure academic research. And then we kind of say we take that research and try and test it in the real world. So we have a citizen scientist program. We have almost 400 people in 40 countries who are taking this and saying like, okay, I'm going to now go out in my day-to-day and actually try this and feed that information back to us, which we then take and turn that into what we call applied programs. And we have 2 focus areas right now, which I'll hand over to you.
So we're doing kindness in the workplace and kindness in the classroom. And we're dubbing the names of these programs LearnKind and LearnKind. And so in the workplace, we're working with companies to help think about how do you engage your employees around kindness. Some of our research has shown the effect of kindness in a work environment, the effect it can have on engagement and well-being and your happiness and joy in the job that you're in. And so by focusing on an action-based program, what we're seeing is it allows people to do micro behaviors and cultivate an environment that's hopefully more nourishing for them in how they show up. And we then know that by default is going to affect how they show up when they leave the office and go home to their community and to their household. And so we're really excited about that because there's incredible opportunity. It allows us to do one-to-many. So bringing kindness, to the masses and at scale through workplace is exciting. So definitely,
Jacqueline, before you tell us the other focus, I just wanted to mention that having been in a corporate environment, previously, I think that's such a terrific focus and project for a company to, integrate into the office place, because so much, goes on in a workplace with, multiple people, where sometimes it brings out the worst in us. Mm-hmm. And this is a great reminder to bring out the best in us. And I think it's a win-win situation all the way around for everyone, the employer, the company, the office workers. And then, as you said, they sort of, generally bring that same level of awareness and kindness home with them. So everyone benefits.
Yeah. Yep. Couldn't agree more. So we're excited. It's been one that we've been working on the longest, and a newer initiative, but one that I'm sure will certainly resonate with the audience, that we're personally very excited about, is LearnKind, where we're thinking about how do you bring kindness into the classroom setting. One of the ways that we think about program development is we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We really want to be building things that are truly efficient and effective in driving impact to mission. There's a lot out there. It is a saturated space, certainly. So much of what we hear from educators is what to do, where to begin, which source and resource to use. And so we're in a learning phase right now where we're basically meeting with our community of educators as well as people outside of our community to just hear what the needs are, what the gaps are, so that what we're creating makes sense for them. And to date, the tool that we've given teachers to really bring kindness into the classroom has been an amazing experience around what we call a kindness wall. And so this is a reminder that our words matter and that there's so many ways to engage with kindness, whether it's giving compliments or reminding people why you're grateful for them. And so the wall can be a symbol where students can interact in a physical way in the classroom. So we've had more, close to 100 walls take place around the world, and classrooms has probably been the leader as to where those walls have taken place. So those are a few of the ways that we're working across workplace and classrooms.
Oh, that's terrific. And it sounds like that would be something that really doesn't have an age, a specific age group that you're targeting. It really sounds like something you can integrate at any age. So that's terrific. How would parents, caregivers, teachers, anyone that, loves and cares for kids, connect or find out more information if they want to bring one of these programs into either the school, the workplace, or simply doing it at home with their children? How do they connect with you?
Yeah, on our website is probably the easiest, or they can just shoot us a message at hello@kindness.org. We answer every single message that comes in. So that's just, what we do. So email us, ping us on social, almost anywhere. We'll really try and connect with you quickly and make sure to get those tools in your hands.
See, now I know why you're sleeping with the cell phone on your pillow. That's an insight.
Talking about other people, Sharon.
Well, I really applaud what you're doing, and we certainly, want to support your efforts. And, just by having you here today, it's our hope that a lot of our viewers will see this and take action, and certainly think about an act of kindness today, just, one act of kindness today, and you'll see how great you feel. So I want to thank you both for coming on the show, and you're certainly, welcome back again. I hope you enjoyed your time here.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. So to the audience, please be sure that you check out all the I Am a Lovable Me books, if I can get that out. I Am a Lovable Me books today by clicking on the link at the very end of this video. They're available in hardcover as well as audio iBooks, and you'll never miss any of our great shows by watching us on Facebook, YouTube, or Periscope every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you have a topic that you think parents and caregivers want to hear about and would like to be a guest on my show, please message me on Facebook. I'm your host, Sharon Penchina, and I'll be back next week with more great self-empowerment tips for you. Thank you all for joining in, and be sure to have a fantastic day and be kind.
Thank you for watching The Lovable Me Show. Also, if you have any questions for Lovable, go ahead and ask away. Don't forget to visit us next week, right here in the Facebook bugler.